This is Yomi Pajama Man, and today I'll be giving out another lesson in Python. So I'm going to go over keyword arguments in a function. And so let me just start off with writing out the code for us, so it's easier to understand. So we'll do def, and we'll call our function equation, and then do parentheses, and within the parentheses we're going to do value, if I can spell it right, value 1, value 2, value 3, and then do a colon, and then we'll define the body of the function like we did many times before. So we do v4 equal to we'll do like value 1 times value 2 times value 3. So you know what's going to happen. All three values are going to times each other, and then you'll get v4. You'll get the number value for v4. And then we want to print. So we're going to go over what we've learned a little bit before. So we're going to do we're going to use formatting. So we're going to do single quote. I want to print the value. Man, I'm getting that wrong. 4 is, and then put in another argument, or I'm sorry, put in a backslash so it knows to go to the next line when you press enter, and so it'll wrap the text around. So now we want to put in format, so we use another function within the function, so using the function name format, and we want to put in what we want to format. We want to format v4, comma, and then the next argument within the format function we want to do 2 single quotes here, and then I want to have 1,000 separators and an F for float. So what's going to happen is this v4 here is going to have some number, but the number, if it's more than 1,000, it'll have 1,000 separators. So if it's 10,000, it'll have that comma, and then I'll make it a float or a decimal as well. And make sure that everything is enclosed. Yeah, so everything is enclosed. You remember what the backslash is. All it's doing is, even though it's going to the next line, this whole print statement right here, within the parentheses, it's going to print on one line. So, and you guys already know that. So getting out of that, we'll do something new. So what we're going to do next is we're going to call the function, since we've already defined it above. So we want to call the function equation, parentheses. I like to put my parentheses in, and then we want to pass some values into here. Usually what we did before was we did like what did we do? We did normally 5, 50, comma 19. So you know what's going to happen. 5 is going to be assigned to value 1, 50 is going to be assigned to value 2, 19 is going to be assigned to value 3, and those three that are into this or within this parentheses will, you'll get the value here, and then it'll print everything. So instead of doing that, let's say that you want to define value 2 first, and then value 3, and then value 1, which you can do. So you can do that by using, let's get rid of this, by using what's called a keyword argument. What we just printed before, let me do Control Z to get all my values back. What we did was, these are called positional arguments. Positional arguments here, positional arguments here, a positional argument here. So we want to get rid of those, and we want to use a keyword argument. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, I want to assign value 2. They usually, okay, so value 2 equal to, what did I say, 5, comma, and then I said next will be value 3 is equal to 50, and then finally value 1 is equal to 19. So what's going to happen is it's going to assign value 2 5 here, it's going to assign value 3 50 here, and then value 1 19 here. Keyword arguments are used for if you want to explicitly state which variable you want to assign. Positional arguments, these aren't positional arguments, but positional arguments are ones that are implicitly assigned to each one of these implicitly. So if we didn't have this one here, we just had 5, 50, and 19, it'll implicitly, the first argument will implicitly be assigned to value 1, the second argument will be implicitly assigned to value 2, and finally here 19 will implicitly be assigned to value 3. But since we're using keyword arguments here, we're stating where the number 5 is going to value 2. So this is called keyword arguments, or explicit assignment to a variable value 2, for example. So you can also use so you can also use positional arguments and keyword arguments. So instead of doing value 2 equals to 5, we can just say let's just get rid of all this and rework the equation function. So we're going to put in, I said that we can put in positional arguments and keyword arguments, so we can put in 5 comma, let's say that value 3, we shifted it, so value 3 is equal to 50 comma value 2 is equal to 5. So you can do this. This is a positional argument, this is a keyword argument, keyword right here assigned to 50, keyword argument here assigned to 5. And the first one is an implicit assignment, so it knows that 5 will be assigned to this one, but then the rest you can use a keyword argument. One exception to this rule, you cannot use a keyword argument first and then a positional argument, or it won't work. Oh, I didn't run the program. So let's see if this works real quick. There we go. So the value talking about value 4 here is 1,250, so that's 1,000 separators here and then the float here. So it works. So we used a positional and then keyword here, so it all works. And but we cannot go the other way. So if we switch this out, if we do, just minus this out and then put comma 5, we can't do that. It'll return an error. Yeah, so a non-keyword arg after keyword arg. So you can't put a positional argument after a keyword arg, or it'll return an error. So it's trying to find value 1 equal to, it can't find that, so it'll return an error. You can use positional arguments first and then keyword arguments here, but you cannot use keyword arguments first and then positional arguments, or it'll return an error. So yeah, and that's it for keyword arguments. It's pretty simple. And let's do Control A to highlight everything, and then do a backspace, and then I'll do Control S to save. So finally, we're going to do global variables. A global variable, I think I've talked about this before. A global variable is accessible to all functions in a program. So let's do like first underscore val equal to 14 right here. And then we'll do a really simple function just to get my point across. So we'll do show def show underscore val parentheses colon here, and then we're going to do print parentheses first underscore val right here. So what's going to happen is, oh, I also have to call the function. So I've defined the function. Now I want to call it. So show underscore val parentheses, there's nothing in the parentheses, and then go to save, and then run. It should display 14. Yeah, there we go. So usually if we weren't working with global variables, this would actually be inside the function. But since it's outside the function, this variable isn't local to this function. It's actually, its scope, like I've discussed before, is everywhere. It's all over the program. It can be used anywhere. I can use another function like def, keyword def show underscore val 2 parentheses print, and then do like another print, and then do like double quotes, for example, another, or I'm sorry, same num, do a colon, and then comma. I know this is kind of trying to print or type this all out. So it's going to do same num, and then it's going to print this one as well. So let's just also run this next function. So the next function is going to be show underscore val2 right here. And so what I'm trying to get across here is that this variable, which is global, it's not within a function. Its scope is everywhere. So any functions within this program can use this global variable first underscore val. So what we did was we've defined our two functions, and then I'm running the first function and then the second function. So what's going to happen is it's going to print first val here, and then the next line is going to print same num, and then give me the same number 14. So it'll be 14 same num 14. So let's run this module. Yeah, 14 same num 14. So getting my point across again, this variable 14, first underscore val, can be used anywhere in the program. So let's flip my paper over. And so let's do something a lot more complicated. So let's say that we have num assignment operator 21, and I hope before it made sense. So I hope that gets in your head. So num 21, let's define a new function. So using the def keyword again, and we're going to name our function show underscore num parentheses colon, and then I'll discuss this in a little bit. So we're going to use a new keyword called global, and then num. I'll discuss that in a little bit. Num is equal to, we're going to do the input built-in function, which we used a while back. So enter a number here, and we're going to put a space here because what comes after this line will be what the user is typing in. So the input function here, and then we'll do introduction. Okay, so we'll do like show underscore. We're going to use a function here, so a function within a function. Now we're going to define what I was typing in before, def show underscore num2 parentheses, and then put a colon here so it knows we're going into the block. So print parentheses the okay, so single quote, the number you entered is single quote. Oh, I'm sorry, I've already did that. So put a comma here, go to the new argument num here, and then get out of the block of code. So we're done with that, and now we want to run the function named show underscore num parentheses. So yeah, so what we did was we defined our variable num, which is 21. So it's a global variable. It's not within a function, so it's not a local variable, it's a global variable. Now we have keyword def. You know what all this is. You got the function a block of code here, and the function header here, and then this one also. But what's new is the keyword global. Okay, you've seen the function, the built-in function inputs. You know what that happens. This is a function within a function. So a function here, and then it'll go to here. So what this keyword global does is that what it does, it says that num is global. Okay, and so when the user is typing in a number, let's say he types in 17, so num is equal to 17. That means that num up here is now equal to 17. Okay, if we didn't have this, if I put like a comment line right here, what would happen is this is a global variable here, but down here this is the local variable unique to this function here, if that makes sense. So if the user types in 17 again, okay, and it'll be here. And actually, let's further my example and do print num here. What'll happen is enter a number, it'll print 17 here, and then it'll go to the next line here, and then print the number you entered is num as well. So actually, let's see how it runs. So like I said, let's do 17 again. Yeah, so the number you entered is 21. Yeah, so it's still back to 21 again right here. So if I hope that makes sense. So what's happening, let's go back here again. So I put a comment here, and so I typed in 17. So this is a local variable. This is another unique variable. This is the second variable. That's a local variable. This is another unique variable. Even though they're the same name, they're unique from each other. So we got num21 and then num17 within the scope of this function. And then, you print num, which is within the scope of this function. And so it's 17 here. And then we go to show num, or show underscore num2, parentheses, go to this function here. And then it prints after that, the number you entered is not 17, but it's 21 right here. Okay? So let's save that. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. So yeah, this number you entered is 21. So if we go back up here and we get rid of the comment line, so we actually include it. So what's going to happen is we're actually going to change the global variable now. Since we assign num to be global, we're referring back to this. So since we've assigned num to be global, now we're changing the num up here. Okay, so change the num up here. So what's going to happen is if I put 17 here, it'll print 17. Show num2 here, it'll print 17 here as well. It should be a double 17. Yeah, so 17 as well. And that's it for global variables. That's how you use global variables. So yeah, pretty interesting. Let's see, just trying to remember if I missed anything, or oh, there's also reasons why. Reason why not to use a global variable. You might have thought that, oh, maybe this is kind of tricky, or there it might produce problems down the line, and usually it does. And I usually don't like to use global variables unless it's a constant. So unless this is like pi, for example, pi, and it's like 3.14, for example, I would use a global variable only for a constant. Okay, do not use a global variable for something that is changing. So in my example, I changed the global variable, which is really, really bad. I just did this just to include the keyword global, so you know how it works. But if you need to change the global variable up here to be a different value, that is bad. Okay, do not use it. Just use a local variable instead. Do not use the keyword global. Okay, you can actually just forget about the keyword global. Just don't use it. It'll just mess up your program. If you go, if for example, if you're debugging your program and this value changes throughout the program like 5 times, for example, and you have 500 lines of code, then it's difficult to pinpoint where that change is in that 5 places in 500 lines of code. So just don't use global variables if it's not a constant. Another thing is functions that use a global variable cannot be reused in another program. So if I wanted to reuse this function right here, I know it's not complicated, but if I wanted to reuse it, it's referring back to let's say this is pi, and just okay, all the num's going to be pi. Okay, so if I wanted to use this function, let's say this function's like 500 lines of code, okay, and I want to reuse this function in another program, in another sheet, okay, under a different .py. I can't do that if it's referring to global variables above, okay. I can't do that. If there's like 10 different global variables that it's referring to, and I've copied this function and I have to put it in another program, it's really bad. That means I have to copy the function and copy all the global constants up here. Instead of doing that, you can put instead of globals, you can put just local variables inside here. It would make your life so much easier. So the point that I'm trying to get across is for globals, is that just don't use it unless you're using a constant. Okay, just don't use a global variable unless you're using a constant, unless it's not going to change, and that's it. So yeah, I'll see you in the next tutorial.